Welcome back, riders. My name is Kevin Wilson with the BMXPERTS Podcast. I'm here with my frequent co-host, Danny Pena, and today we have a very special guest, Marty Boster, right?
Correct. Just like Foster with a B.
You have Boster children.
Well, you know, they tell me every time I race, they butcher my name no matter where I go. They say Booster or Boaster, and I'm like, it's just like Foster with a B, man.
Got it. Well, thank you very much, Marty. We touched base with Marty at Dirty Fest 3, and that we were talking about the podcast, and I asked Marty if he'd be interested in coming on, and he graciously accepted our invitation. So thank you very much, Marty, for coming on, bro.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So the last video that Danny and I did, we did a Dirty Fest 3 recap. Do you remember that video, Danny?
Yes.
You got some pretty good responses. You remember that, Danny?
You're asking me. I thought you were talking to Marty.
Oh, no, Danny. You remember that, Danny?
Yeah, I'm awake, I promise you. Yeah, that was an excellent video. I think you and I had a little chit-chat about it. The way it flowed was really, really well. I know there was some strong opinions about certain aspects of that video, so I'm not going to touch that. But other than that, most of it was very positive, and it was just a good experience for me overall. I'm still kind of buzzing from it, and the video I did is still getting a lot of views, so it was a great experience.
Marty, I have a question for you. Were you there when people were telling the stories about Ronnie on the gate? Did you tell me that story?
I wasn't there when he was talking about being on the gate, but I know that there's, stories in the past. Are you talking about when Ronnie was a pro and would show up to local races, or?
No, I heard that Ronnie's MO was to show up late. Everybody's already on the gate standing up. He'll show up without his jersey on, without his helmet on, and he would put his front tire over the starting gate and just sit there and make people like fidget when they're standing on the pedals. Is that a true story? Because I didn't hear it from Ronnie. I heard it from somebody else.
So Ronnie, it's funny we talked about that because Ronnie came down with me. Ronnie lives like probably 15, 20 minutes up the hill from me. And we talked the whole way. It's a 9.5-hour drive, and it's Ronnie's, he's good conversation. I really like listening to the stories. And believe it or not, you listen to him, and then you get around and start talking with like Pistol Pete and some of the other pros, and Ronnie's pretty spot on. I'm not going to sit here and stuff my nose up his ass per se, but he's pretty accurate in a lot of the stuff he says. And it just, it is what it is. I try to take Ronnie out of that. He gets a little elevated, and I try to put a positive spin on it and say, Ronnie, you just go to these events. Let's go have a good time. And so that's where it is. And then we get going, and I tell Ronnie, just let's go have fun, man. Ride your bike around.
I've heard that story before.
I've heard stories of like he would get on the gate and say, "I'm beating you." But Ronnie's told me, Ronnie goes, "I never did that." And I'm like, okay, well, if it's coming from the horse's mouth. So, but I've also heard stories of him, getting on the gate and hitting the gate with his wheel and just kind of, "You guys ready? Let's go!" Just pumping people up. Ronnie's very high energy.
Yeah,
and
I also heard, not to cut you off, but I also heard that Dave Marietti used to do a dirty trick too on the gate, where he would just sit out on the gate and everybody else would be on their pedals balancing, and he would just go, "Hold on, hold on," and then while he's sitting on the gate, he's sitting on his seat, "Hold on," and everybody's trying to like stay balanced and stay up. And I thought that was kind of funny, dude. That was 2 stories I heard at Dirty Fest.
Well, that's how they ran back in the day. They were like, if you weren't ready, get your wheel over the gate until you're ready. And you get you might get a little bit of time. Try that now. Good luck. By the time you get on the gate, they're running, and you better be on the gate ready to go, or you're just gonna get a bad gate.
I never even thought about that. Danny? Have you ever seen anything like that when you were racing?
I think the pros get a little bit more leeway with stalling on the gate because everybody's watching, and they're the pros, so they're going to get more respect than let's say amateurs like us racing where, Marty's right. I mean, they're going to, the race ahead of you is like halfway around the track and they're already doing your gate. So you have to be like ready to go. There's really if you're goofing around, you're just going to get, you're going to get left behind. But I can tell you from a rider's experience, if somebody was disruptive on the gate, it would definitely mess with my psyche because I'm taking all my concentration to make sure I'm balancing perfect. My pedals are perfect.
Yeah.
I'm breathing. I'm calming down. And if somebody's shaking the gate or making noise or being disruptive, it would mess with my mind. So yeah, I can see, I can kind of see why riders would want to do that to kind of disrupt the flow of the other guys. Because that's a big deal.
And Ronnie and Pete and those guys would talk to me about how, hey, when they get up there, man, that's a paycheck. He's like, I got to win this money. I've diapers to buy. And it was a job for those guys, back in the day. Whereas, and I think that's where they kind of, they take a lot of that. They take a lot of that with them now, where now and I tell Ronnie, I go, it's a bike race, man. This is a pastime. It's fun. Back in probably the late 70s, early 80s, when it was really starting to take off, I think that they thought it was going to be bigger than what it was, but it wasn't going to be the NFL or NBA, or basketball like that. It was
my NFL for sure, dude.
Yeah. And all of us wanted that. I remember everybody thinking it's going to be in the Olympics. This is going to be huge. And it's just a pastime, and it's like any other sport. My daughter plays travel softball, or did, and we've gone to a lot of softball games, and it's like, you're lucky if you get a partial scholarship to go to school. So it's like any event that the kid is into. I remember sitting in high school I had friends that played baseball and football, and I would sit there and think, how can they not want to ride a bike? That was my thought. That's how much I loved racing bikes and was not into traditional sports.
I hear you, man.
I think the sport has progressed pretty well, except if I think back to the 80s, I would have imagined it would have gotten a little bit bigger. Yeah, we made it to the Olympics, but I would love to see the pros of today make more money. I just don't understand, why they're risking everything for what the guys were making in the 80s. And I think they were actually making more. If you think about it, like Ronnie, Pete, all the big names, they were making probably close to six figures. So and let's face it, Ronnie was in Sports Illustrated, man. He was he was really starting to blow up. Yeah. And so when I got a chance to talk to him, he was in Sports Illustrated. He had an interview in there, and I was, I think there was some talk about steroids in there. I never read the article, but I know he was involved with that and with the interview. I don't know about the steroids thing, but when I was talking to Ronnie, I could see how emotional he still is about stuff that happened decades ago. And I almost felt kind of bad in a way for him. I go, man, he's got these demons that are just, they won't let him go, and we put this guy on a pedestal, and a lot of things went wrong for him, I think. And I think that's what's upsetting him today.
Yeah. Ronnie comes by and we talk a lot. Ronnie and I have become friends over the past 2 years, and I didn't really know Ronnie when I was a kid. I knew who he was, and I'd seen Richie at the Field Nationals about 10, 15 years ago. And for me, it was like, oh yeah, that's Richie Anderson, or I'd see these guys, but I never really chased a lot of these guys down, because I always felt like I'm a racer just like they are. When I was 15, I did chase Pistol Pete down one time at the Gold Cup in Reno, and he won, and I just told him about it. I go, man, I won your autograph, but you were so beat tired. And then I saw Kevin Hull, at Dirty Fest, and I told him, I stood next to you in the elevator going down from Circus. I was just stood there frozen. I just wanted to say hi, but I was super nervous, as a 15-year-old kid. Yeah. But now it's just I see these.
Take your picture, did you?
I didn't.
Hey,
but
can you take my picture?
Yeah, and so I look at it like, I get a little, I kind of geek out a little bit, but at the same time, it's like I think if you don't really kiss these guys' asses and you're just kind of part of the group, you get a little bit more respect from them, and it really, it really is cool. My hero, my BMX hero is Chris Moeller. And I see him at all the races, and I always say hi. And I took a couple of pictures last year at Dirty Fist, but this year I just, you pass and you wave, and then, people kind of start to recognize you. it was, and I mean, Friday night at Dirty Fest, we're sitting there for we closed the place down after they unveiled the bike, the Bob Harrow bike. And there's me, Ronnie, Jeremy McGrath, two of my buddies, Brian Silvas and Kevin Sutmolder. Suddy, he was a Olympic massage therapist for the Olympic team. He's a good guy that you may want to talk to. I'll get you his number, Kevin. Very interesting stories. Okay. And we're all standing around talking, and Ronnie and Eric are talking about, Ronnie's like, yeah, I'm sitting here, and Eric, EC Eric Carter, he's a kid. He's talking about, hey, you want to go meet Evel Knievel? He's right in this bar, and you're sitting there talking, and then I'm having a conversation with Jeremy McGrath, and we're talking about, what the pros make now versus then. He's like, and then we're talking invested money, and then, come Saturday, the next day, we're riding through the pits and, hey, ride past Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy, hey, what's happening? It's just like they recognize you. And to me, that's the fun part, is being at these events and being, part of the camaraderie. And you're a rider and a racer and there's guys that want to go around and get autographs. I'm not a big autograph guy. I bought a shirt last year from Bill Allen. I wanted a rad shirt, and he goes, he's like, hey, for $5, I'll sign it. I'm like, oh, and I didn't want to for it. So I was like, yeah, okay, go ahead and sign it. So I had him sign it, and I was like, so I had to bring it home and give it to my son. I was going to wear it, but I don't like wearing it.
Dude, did you watch our recap for the Dirty Fest recap?
He nailed it, Kevin.
I
did. Yeah, I did some of it, but
Dude, we talked about this exact same thing, bro.
Yeah, what happened, Marty, is I saw Bill Allen. I've never seen him in person.
Yeah.
And I told Kevin, I go, oh, dude, Bill Allen, I got to get a picture with this guy. Kevin's like, okay, whatever, and we're waiting around. And I go, hey, Bill, can I get a picture with you? He goes, yeah, give me 2 minutes. And he's signing people's stuff, selling shirts. Kevin goes, he's ignoring you, dude. Yeah. And I'm like, no, he's not. He was.
I did see that. I remember you guys talking about it. So I'm like, yeah.
Funny stuff.
Yeah,
well, anyways, that was. Don't tell Ronnie, but I was not a big Ronnie fan back in the day, but don't tell him that.
Oh, I won't. But he did. I just talked to him about 15 minutes. He told me to tell you guys hi.
Okay. Yeah, he's been a definite friend of the channel for sure.
Yes. Yeah, his interview you did with him was very entertaining.
Oh, well, thank you.
Any interview he does is great.
Hey, Marty, I'm gonna let you a little secret. Danny and I have been doing these videos for about 8 months now, probably 9 months, and there have been several cases where I voiced my concerns, my hatred, or my dissatisfaction with the Redline MX2s, and the Pro lines too, for that matter. But it's always centered around the Redline MX2s, and I've gotten messages from people over time saying, what's your problem with this? But I wanted to share something because I don't get a lot of feedback from people that are subscribed to the channel. But I wanted to read this comment from a subscriber, and I wanted to set the record straight for everybody wondering why I don't like Redline MX2s. Okay. Here's what they wrote. Great videos, Kevin. I really enjoy the duo with you and Danny. I've always been a Redline rider, and I've never ridden old school squareback. However, they look badass. But there needs to be a video explaining the love-hate with the MX2. Is it the size of the frame or something different? Stay rad. Hope to see both of you in Frogtown this year. And that was from a subscriber to the channel. And he comments all the time on the videos. So for anybody out there, I will explain why I don't like the MX2. Not that my explanation means a damn thing.
Right.
I think that the Redline squareback is quite possibly the most beautiful old school BMX frame ever. So when they went from the Redline squareback to the Redline MX2, I thought that essentially in the big scheme of things, I thought that they messed with the Mona Lisa. I said, why do you want to mess with near perfection when and not even make it better? You actually, in my opinion, they made it look worse because of the relaxed seat tube angle, the raked out forks, and that type of thing. So that's one of the reasons why I really don't like the Redline MX2. However, I absolutely adore the Redline squareback and a bunch of other different Redline products.
Right.
That's why I go, I don't like the Redline MX2 because I thought that they messed up the geometry from the square back. On a more personal note, there was a guy in my city that was my neighbor, and he always thought he was hot shit, and he had an MX2. Right? This guy, we've all had our neighbors. They thought that he thought he was hot shit. He raced before I did. All this good stuff. And I mean, we weren't enemies. We were more like frenemies. But I honestly thought, like, this dude can't ride. I can out-jump this dude. I can outride this dude every day of the week. No problem. And this guy would talk shit about this Redline. He had, I got my new MX2, and I got my new Redline stem and my Redline pads. And that's another reason why I don't like the Redline MX2, because of that asshole that I grew up with. That's my reason why I don't like the MX2. Okay, everybody. So I have no qualms in admitting that Redline made fantastic frames, fantastic equipment, pillars of the BMX community. It's just that I thought that they messed with the they messed with the Mona Lisa. They didn't have to change it, and that's my opinion on that. So I hope that answers the question for future viewers. Thank you very much for your message. Do you like the Redline MX2, Marty? Do you have any opinion on that?
I'm not a Redline guy, but I don't dislike Redline. But with the neighborhood I grew up in, we liked Mongoose. We were all about the Team Mongoose or Super Goose. There was a neighborhood around the corner from us, and there was a couple of Redline guys, Tim Dutro and I forget his buddy's name, but they had the Redline, but those guys had a little bit more money. And then there was also, around the other corner down the street, there were the FMF guys and the Race Incorporated guys. But I lived as a kid. I lived right down the street from Citruside Cyclery, which was actually just down the street from where Eric Dyer's shop, Elite Bicycles, is now, on Auburn Boulevard and I-80, just over the bridge from Roseville, from the Oak Creek track. And so I remember as a kid going into Citruside Cyclery, and you would see the Moto Mags, and then there was always a Team Mongoose that was built up. They had a Bitchin' GT in there that was all tricked out. And we ended up, all we could afford at the time, this was 1981, I think, Diamondback 2 Silver Streak was $269. And so my brother got it, and that might have been 1981. And so Redline for us was, it was just something that it was too expensive. We could have never afforded it then. And so it wasn't that I didn't dislike it. I just didn't really get into them.
Yeah. You never even thought about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? I know Danny do you like the MX2, Danny, right? You have no problem with it.
With Redline, I think they became so mainstream at one point in the mid 80s, where they had a lot of entry-level bicycles that were coming out.
Yeah.
It kind of watered down the whole high-end, high-end part of Redline, because now you can get a Redline for $199 in 1985. So it from this upper echelon bicycle down to like, this is now an entry-level bike. I think it was a good move for Redline because they probably sold a ton of them, and it probably brought in a lot of revenue. But at the same time, I think it kind of watered it down. I'm like, wow, now it's just like any ordinary bike, every neighborhood kid can get them, because Marty said himself couldn't afford a Redline because they were super on the high end, especially in the early 80s. $500-600 for a complete bike was a lot of money then, right?
Yeah.
And now here it is, 1985, 86. Now it's like $199 to get you a Redline 600A or whatever it was, so it kind of like watered it down a little bit. That's the only opinion I have. But I did want to go back on one thing real quick, Kevin. Sorry, I'm getting off topic, but Marty brought up Jeremy McGrath, and I know Jeremy McGrath is probably one of the greatest supercross racers, motocross racers ever. I was super impressed watching him race over the weekend. At the race. Sorry, I'm blanking out. Yeah, he was just hauling ass. I was like, damn, Jeremy's legit fast.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, he's no joke. I always thought of him as a motorcycle guy and messed around with BMX bikes. But I mean, he's a great racer.
Yeah, no, I was watching because I thought I was.
See him, Kevin?
I
You
thought
see
I
him
was going
riding?
to
He's
have
wearing,
to
like,
race
cleats?
him because we were signed up in the same for Friday night pre-registration, but then on Saturday the whole motos there was 35 riders in my class, which was I was the 90 to 99 retro, and there was me and there's 6 of us, so there's me and 2 other old guys, and then there were 3. I'll call them youngsters. They were probably 22 to 28 years old, and I beat the old guys in my class, but not the barely. But then in my second round, I was running third. I had one of those kids in front of me or behind me, and he ended up passing me. But we went down for the event. To me, that Dirty Fest is awesome, and in my opinion, it's an event before it's a race, and it's just a good event that you have an opportunity to race if you want. And so that was my thought was, hey, we're going to go down. I'm going to race on Saturday. I couldn't be there Sunday. I had to leave to come back Sunday. Yeah. Because the next day on Tuesday, my wife and I were heading to Arizona for our 20th wedding anniversary. So we spent, 4 days in Arizona, and so I wasn't going to come back all scarred up or scratched up or beat the hell up. I was just going to go run and have some fun and enjoy the event. And I did enter one of my bikes in the bike show,
nice.
Which I didn't quite understand how it worked, and I still don't.
You got a zero, dude. You got a zero.
I got a zero. Well, what happened was I go back and I have a 1980 RRS. It's about as rare as a bike can be. I brought it by. I think I brought it by and showed you guys.
Yeah,
I don't even think the people right next to the RRS booth really understood what RRS was. I think they were just selling T-shirts or something.
Okay.
So there was 5 or 6 bikes in my categories. It was the 72 to 82 Survivor. And I think Toby Henderson had a rally that ended up winning, which it was a nice bike. There was a Mongoose Moto Mag that was in there, they were, I guess they were shined up. And I thought, to me, a retro was something, this bike that I got it's been stored in a bike shop for about 40 years. And I took it, the cranks didn't move, the wheels, nothing. They're original Tough 2s. Yeah. With loose ball bearings. I took the whole thing apart, re-greased everything. It rides nice. I dialed in the brakes. I'll ride it around the neighborhood. It's a nice riding bike. So I'll take it down and see how it fares. And so after judging, they judged it while we were racing. I went over there and I asked the guy, I said, hey, you guys how did I do? And he goes, oh, you didn't win. I'm like, okay. I go, well, can you show me the results? He goes, no, just you email me and I'll tell you what you can do better next time. And I'm thinking, better? It's a Survivor. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I took the bike and left. And I just thought those are, when there's judges involved, everything is very subjective, but they do have, I think, some criteria that they go by. And maybe I didn't understand if you're supposed to take this Survivor and polish it up and make it super shiny. I mean, this thing had Oakley B1B grips on it that were in pretty good shape for 40-year-old grips or however long, 43-year-old grips. So I left them on there because I was like, this is to me what a Survivor is all about. So, it was, I'm not bitter, but I was thinking, man, maybe I just didn't understand the criteria they were looking for. And there's a handful of judges. So everybody has their own opinion. And I started thinking, I wonder if any of them really knew what an RRS was, because there wasn't a whole lot of them made.
Right. I saw that bike personally. That was a great bike. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
He brought it in, told us a story about it.
Was that Toby Henderson's bike, or was that a replica of his bike?
What's that?
Was that actually Toby Henderson's bike, or was it a replica?
No, I think that the bike that won that rally was his bike that might have been a replica. I think he entered that bike in the show. I don't know the history of it at all, but it maybe it was his bike, or maybe it was a rebuilt.
That would be crazy if it was, yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I saw about that bike that I didn't think was correct, and I might be wrong, guys, and hopefully I'm not, but I think it had Skyway Tough 2s, not Skyway Tough 2 graphites. I think. Do you remember, Kevin? Because I know I looked at the video a few times and I go, I think those are Tough 2s. I don't think those are graphites. That's the only thing I saw that didn't seem 100% correct.
Danny would figure this this
Yeah.
detail out, dude.
Hey, I'm no judge, but I just thought
that's why I dig Danny, dude, because he would figure that he pays attention to the details.
Yeah.
I had that centerfold of it came out of BMX Plus, and it's Toby Henderson on that bike, and I remember it hanging on my bedroom door.
Yeah.
So I looked at it every single day, and I go, I'm almost 99% sure it had graphites.
It could have. I mean, it depends. I think graphites might have came out in 81 or 82. I'm not 100% sure. And I should know, living here in Reading, where Skyway's from, and I'm pretty good friends with Perry and Ken Coster, and I don't know. I never really got into the history of stuff. All I wanted to do was ride bikes. So I never got into too much technical stuff, or what was proper and what wasn't, and what gears you're supposed to run. And we just, I don't know.
So you raced, Marty, at 30 Fest. Can you tell us what your experience was like going down that big hill?
That track was fun. It was Eric really he dialed in nice. It was like he said in his interview, it's enough for you to go fast, but enough to keep you slow, because you going into that first corner and there's like a sandy sheen. And so, I mean, you go into it hot and you've seen people wash out. On Saturday morning when we got there, one of the first guys I saw on the track was Pistol Pete. And so we go up there, and dude, he slid out 4 or 5 times on his first lap around, and he was hauling ass. I mean, he was flying, and he just washed out into that. Let's see, 1, 2, into turn number 3. But it was pretty slick in areas. It was a lot of fun. Everything rolled and flowed pretty good. I had put
did you have the butterflies going when you got on the gate? Were you pretty nervous?
No, I was pretty comfortable. I just didn't want to fall. I didn't want to crash, because I didn't want to get hurt, because again, I was going, 2 days later to spend a week with my wife in Sedona, Arizona for our anniversary. So I'm like, I can't beat myself up, but I rode pretty good. I did all right. I built a new, S&M Mad Dog this year, and I started racing a little bit down at our local track, and I went to the state qualifier race in Rio Linda at Elkhorn about 3 weeks ago, just to get a little bit of time on the track. And I was a little squirrely, but started to get a little better. It's all coming back into play.
Good. That's the most important part.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I was doing all right. I started really training and working out 2 years ago, to about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I was pretty heavy. I was I was really overweight, and I was just like, I got to do something. I'm 50. I'll be 54 in 2 months, but I've got a personal trainer and been working out solid for 2 years. And I mean, I went from 220 pounds and 27% body fat to right now I'm walking around at 198, and I'm at easily 12. I'm trying to get to 10%, but I'm at 12. And it's like, for the first time in my life, my body is actually outperforming my skill level. So it's like, I mean, I can ride the wheels off my bike, but I'm all over the track. I'm squirrely, but it's slowly coming back. That racing in Rio Linda a couple weeks ago was really good for me, and I'm probably going to go up to Ukiah this weekend and race. They're having a state race and I think a Gold Cup qualifier or something at Rusty Bowl BMX. So I like to race these little locals and maybe these state races and stuff like that. I'm not really big on going to the nationals.
What? Let's go back.
I'll tell you, Marty.
Okay. We kind of fast forward a little bit, right?
Go ahead.
Tell us what the beginnings of your debauchery on a BMX bike, bro.
Okay, so I did write down an outline just so I wouldn't forget, and I started writing this outline. I thought, man, I actually have a pretty long career off and on in BMX.
Okay.
But so I'm going to start out. I'm going to go back to 1980, 81, where we would go up to Crazy Horse campgrounds, and I'd watch my brother and my good friend Jim McCarty, Moondog McCarty. He's a northern NorCal pro from Roseville area. and I'd go watch them race. And I remember seeing Sherry Elliott when she must have been 13 or 14 then, before Skyway. There was John Anderson, was a factory, he might have been a Redline. I don't know if he's on support then or if he was a factory rider. I think he was a factory rider. Fast. I don't know if you guys have heard of John Anderson or not, but he was, yeah, he was fast.
Wait,
and then Rick Webb.
Redline John Anderson?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I remember him, dude.
Yeah. I remember seeing him.
Stars in I raced him out. That's a whole other story. Go ahead.
Yeah. He would start out of the gate sometimes backwards on the local race on his pit bike, at Grass Valley, and he just dominated. He was fast.
Wow.
I'm back.
There we are.
All right,
I don't know if you got all that or not. But so Crazy Horse Campgrounds is where it all kind of started. That track's no longer there. It's up in El Dorado Hills, but I think there's probably a mall or something there. But in '82, my first race was a UBR race, and it was a free race.
Oh, no. That story was good.
Are you there? Sorry.
UBR. Go from there.
Yeah. So my first race in '82 was a UBR race. It was a free race. Come and sign up. And I raced my friend. My friend had a bike. I didn't even have a bike at that point. And I won, but there was me and one other kid. It was a 10 novice class. And I think the other kid might have been 8 or 9 years old, just a little tiny kid with little sew-up wheels. And I was a pretty big kid. So, it is what it is. Back then, there's probably not a whole, I don't know, motor count must have been high, but it was just me and one other kid. And then '83, I raced the old Roseville track that was at the Placer County Fairgrounds. And I think it was an NBL sanction. I can't remember. There was a local fast kid named Sean Ho, and his dad ran the track. I can't think of his dad's name, but I think he ran that track and there was a Sac Raceway track. I think he ran 2 tracks, but Sean Ho was pretty fast local kid. And I think he did good at some of the, nationals around Northern California. I don't really know his career other than I just remember him being one of the fast guys at the track. And at Roseville, a couple of times at the old Roseville track, I'd have to race him, and he was an expert, and I was like that was when it was beginner, novice, expert, and he wiped the track with us. But then 1984, so I'm in between these, I don't race and then I start back up. '84, they built a track at Pecan Park, which was in Orangeville, and Bummer McMonagle's dad, I think, ran that track when it first started, and it was USBA was the sanction.
I haven't heard that in a while. USBA.
Yeah. And it was short-lived, but it was pretty cool. And then I think it lasted maybe a year or two, and then I think ABA ended up buying them out and then running the Pecan Park track, which was then ran by Frank and Margaret Blatt, that also started Elkhorn BMX maybe 25 years ago. I'm not sure if they're still around. I think Frank was older then. He may have passed away. I don't know. But so yeah, USBA Pecan Park BMX. That was a fun track. It was fast. It was kind of a big downhill. It was kind of almost like a Dirty Fest style track, really. You come out, they had a pretty big starting hill. Nothing too gnarly, step up, couple berms. It went way back. They called the back 40 in the trees, and then you come out, there's a small water jump, and it was pretty fun track.
Let me ask you a question, Marty.
Yeah.
When you were all this was happening, was it still beginner, intermediate, expert, or had it changed to novice, something else in the meantime? Were you
in 1986 is when it was novice, intermediate, expert.
Okay.
Is what I remember. And that was when I started at Oak Creek at Roseville, which was ran by Bruce and Linda Minton. We went out there and I signed up as a 15 novice. I raced her when I was 15 years old as a novice. And then I made my way up. By the time I was 17, I was racing 17 expert. So it took me a couple of years to turn expert, but
you waited too. You were 15 when you started racing.
Yeah, 15 is really where it took off. When I really was from 15 years old to about 23 years old was when
I was 16 when I started.
Yeah.
Danny was like 4 or something. How were you, Danny?
I was 12.
Ah.
Now I got to tell you though, the longer you wait to start, the harder it is because you're going to get mixed with experts if you wait too long.
Well,
to start.
I'm about to share that with you.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah.
It took you 2 years to go from a novice to an expert.
Yes.
But I assume you never had a novice class unless you went to a big race. Right?
No, I had a novice. I had a pretty good local novice. Novice was small. Intermediate, we always had probably 6 or 7 riders. And expert was a pretty stacked class when those guys weren't racing nationals. But so when I started racing at Roseville, there was the guys that, well, I didn't have to race right away, but when I turned intermediate and expert, I had to race like Kenny May, Brian Roost, and those guys just dominated. We would, but luckily for me, I think when I was 16, and then I would race Kenny May for like a month or two, and then he would turn 17, and then I didn't really ever have to race him. But even Brian Roost, those guys were way fast. There was, when I went there, the local A pro scene was pretty much Jim McCarty, Eric Dyer, Sean O'Gorman, Jerry Jones. The fast experts were what I have down here. Kenny May, Brian Roost. Shea Pierce was a local little fast kid. He was younger than me, but he tragically passed away a couple years ago. Diana Bowling.
You're talking about, Marty? You're talking about Roseville, right?
Yeah, Roseville. Yeah, they were all on spinners. That spinners team.
Okay.
Sean O'Gorman, Bob O'Gorman. Yeah, and then that was a pretty. Huh?
Roseville.
You've been to Roseville?
Roseville's still operating. I've raced there.
They're still operating. Yes, I intend to make my way down that way and do a couple local races. It's a 2.5 hour drive for me. So I'll go down and run and turn around and come back home.
I will say this: the Roseville is not for the faint of heart, man. It's fast locals at Roseville.
Oh yeah. That's a fast track.
Yeah, you got to bring your A game. I've got my ass handed to me a few times.
Yeah.
At Roseville, because you want to race under the lights at Roseville, man, and that's the place to go. And they don't have paved turns, paved starting hill. Everything's dirt. It's awesome.
I think they did cover it with a coating or some kind of coating a year or two ago, but
soil tack. Yeah.
But I haven't been there since. I haven't raced that track in probably 10 or 12 years. In fact, the last time I raced that track was 2013 or 14, and I ended up waking up in an ambulance.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Well, it was my own fault. I was being stupid, but I was. I'll get to that part though. That's still part of this story. So back then, let me rewind. USBA. Oh, back then on USBA, I'm going to back up to Pecan Park where first let me back. I'm sorry. I skipped a few things, but I wanted to kind of explain what bikes I was riding. So yeah.
We'll condense it down. Let's hear your bikes, dude.
Okay, so the original NBL track was my handed down Silver Streak. That was my brother's bike. It was a 1982 Diamondback Silver Streak. Then at USBA Pecan Park was a 1980 or 81 Super Goose that Jim Moondog McCarty gave me that I raced. And then let's see, USBA, that's Pecan Park. 86, I finally got my first bike that was a used Skyway that I bought from a friend of mine. I raced the Skyway. Yes, that was my dream bike, was a Skyway. It was a TA extra long. I raced out from 86 to 88. And then I raced, Roseville. We would come down. We raced there was a Gold Cup qualifier in Stockton. We'd do a couple local races at Stockton, which I want to talk about because if Danny, you raced the old Stockton track, then
it had,
do you ever?
It had a bridge with a tunnel.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
a badass track.
Do you ever remember sitting in staging to get on the gate and then getting pelted with mud on the back of your helmet from the sprint cars on a Saturday night? The sprint cars next to you, they would come into turn 3 and 4 and flip mud over the wall, and it'd just be like boom, 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 boom on the back of your helmet. If they happened to run in the same night as the BMX races.
I only raced there twice because I lived in the Bay Area and at the time. I live in Stockton now, but I lived in the Bay Area at the time, so we would go to like the Spring Nationals there.
Yeah.
I think twice. And yeah, it was a cool. That track was cool, Kevin. You go over first turn, man. You go up over like a bridge, and then cruise down under a tunnel. I never raced anything like that before. I'm like, what is this? Like, it's like a theme park.
Yeah, it was a really, really cool fast track. And there were a lot of fast guys from that area, you know, because you would get the Bay Area guys would come over and the Sacramento guys would come down, and because it was only an hour drive, you know, each way.
Yeah.
But that was a great track. I really liked the old Stockton track. And then every once in a while we go.
You were on the Skyway when you turned 16X or 17X or whatever.
Yes, on my Skyway. I raced that same bike from 15 novice to 17 expert. I went through two of them. I actually ended up getting another new Skyway before I ended up moving to Reading the summer of 1988. So when I moved to Reading, I bought a brand new 1988 S&M Mad Dog frame and fork, which, God, I wish I had that thing right now. That would win every one of those shows. But I bought that, and I kind of got into jumping. I started, you know, at 15, 16, 17, I started getting pretty good at jumping, big stuff, far stuff. And you know, I could do 360s and one hand and one footers and, you know, seat grabs and all that kind of stuff. I was probably like, you know, maybe somewhere between like Chris Moeller and Fuzzy, not really as good as Fuzzy, but I could do some of the stuff. I didn't do any flips until probably the mid 90s, which, you know, there were no foam pits. We did them in the water. And then I did a couple of them over a set of doubles at my friend's house. And then decided after I landed one, I said, okay, I'm never doing this again, because it took 4 or 5 tries before I got around. And then I ended up tearing all my shoulder, and I was like, and I was like 26 or 27 at the time. I'm like, okay, I'm just done getting hurt on my bike.
That's insane. So, I can honestly say I've never attempted a backflip, never will.
I used to dream about, like, when I was a kid, I would sit and try to figure out when I was, you know, 15, 16, I go, there's, you know, we all saw a rat, and I go, it's just got to be a matter of a good lip and just throwing your body and you know, and thrusting your hips into the bars. I mean, but nobody was going to try that into anything. And, you know, but there was a race in Reno, 1990 Silver Dollar Nationals that I went to. And that's where I first met Chris Moeller for the first time. And there was a pro section, and there was a double, another double, and then a big double that went over the intermediate, or the not the intermediate, but the amateur portion of the track. Okay. And it was probably 26 to 28 feet across.
So it was it a berm jump, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
In the back corner. So during practice, I went out and I 360'd that thing, and the Reno erupted. The whole, it was like a concert. I was like, oh yeah. And then Fuzzy and Chris Moeller both did them, but I was the first one to do it. And then that's when I had the guts to go up and talk to Chris Moeller, and he was like, dude, that was rad. I talked to him now, and he doesn't remember it, which is fine. I get it. It was a long time ago, but that was the turning point. And I had my Mad Dog, and I cracked it, and I had it re-welded. I destroyed the forks, you know, within 3 or 4 months of having it. So I was running some landing gear forks on it. And Chris goes, hey, he goes, at that point, Dave Clymer was riding by across. We were right like at the finish line, and it was pro practice. And he goes, that's our new frame. It's a new S&M Holmes. It'll probably fit you better. It's longer. And he gave me it's funny. Let me show you. I don't know why I still have this, but I do. Oh boy. Here it is. He gave me this card, and he wrote on it his phone number. It's a Harley Davidson card. I don't know if you can see that clear or not.
Yeah, I could see.
But he wrote S&M Bikes and wrote the P.O. box number and all that. And he goes, send me a money order for $150 and I'll send you our new frame. So I send him the money order. Frame comes. He sends me a frame, fork, a bunch of stickers, pads. I mean, just a full-on care package of stuff. And that was my new love for S&M Bikes, was just how cool that was. You know, that he did that. And yeah, I showed him this card in at Frogtown a couple years ago, and he was just like, dude, that was wild. That's so cool that you have that.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah.
And I just kind of really, he's just always been, to me, authentic. You know, it's just, there's just no gimmicks. It's just a, you know, and he's funny. He's just so witty, you know, and so that's kind of why I like the product. And they've always built good stuff. And, you know, every once in a while you might get something where, I remember when they came out with those Prince Albert cranks, I never ran those because they were either off a little bit or the weld or the pedal, you know, it wasn't welded the best. But that's where for me, Redline, I always ran flights. I love flight cranks.
I think what's the latest? Is it the S&M Challenger? Is that what it's called? Is the chrome ollie frame and fork? Is that what it's called? I might be saying it wrong.
Well, the new one that I just built was that they did the Mad Dog, a revision of the Mad Dog with disc brakes.
Okay.
And that's what I built to race. But they've yet to build an aluminum bike. I don't think they will because they're just, you know, he's all about aluminums for beer cans. Is what their motto is over there. But I just, you know, I just like that product.
That's like a good topic, you know, Kevin, in the future is bike brands that riders are loyal to, because obviously Marty's loyal to S&M. I've got my loyalty to Skyway, and I know a lot of us older guys, we find something we like and we just stick with it. And what do you think yours is, Kev? If you had to say you were loyal to a brand, would there be any brand, or are you just?
But you know, I'm not going to race a JMC now. I have no loyalties, dude.
Really?
I'm a rebel, dude.
Yeah. Not to say I won't ride anything else. I mean, there's a GHP right behind me, so but I'll ride other bikes. But it's funny, you always have like this. You have this affinity for like a certain brand. Like you can see Marty's all about S&M. He's like,
that is a good idea for a future episode, though.
Yeah, we could have.
If it wasn't for these wheelie kids, I know whatever SE would be mine. I was an SE freak before the JMC, but now I could never get on an SE. But
I'm the same way. I'm not. It sucks because I love Todd Lyons and I love Dick Cheeseberry. Those guys are so rad, and what they do is awesome. But I'm not a big fan of the wheeling down the street and in and out of cars. This is going to sound terrible, but every time I see one of those kids get whacked by a car, I laugh my ass off.
Yeah, dude. It's not. I mean, it's more of a circus to me than it is a BMX company. No offense to Todd Lyons. Hey,
they do a good job, but I'm just not a big fan of those 100 bike rideouts where they're zooming in and out of traffic. And I don't know, call me old, I guess. I'm just, you know, when I'm riding my bike, I look out for myself because I know I've got to watch for the people they can't see me. But we're heading straight for a car and try to move out of the way, and you fall off your bike, you dummy. You shouldn't, you know. It's terrible.
I just sounded like my dad, dude. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Oh, Marty, dude.
Yeah. You know what? I'll tell you something that I still do to this day, and it's kind of what Marty was saying, is I always look out for myself when I'm out riding my route. I went on a long bike ride on, I think Saturday. I went like 5 miles or whatever. But anytime there's a car at a stop sign, I won't ride in front of it. I tend to go behind it, and I'm being super defensive all the time because I'm not trying to get in front of a car, and these guys are doing the opposite. You know, they're trying to I don't know, maybe it's an adrenaline thing. I don't know.
You're right. I do the same thing, man.
It's so much more dangerous nowadays because nobody's paying attention. You know, everybody's on their phone or they're just so preoccupied that it's like, I don't even really go out and ride on the roads anymore. We'll just hit the river trail and load our bike up and do whatever. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the big ride outs.
How old were you when you turned? Did you turn pro or 17X and you were done?
I raced 1 year of A Pro in 1990. That was the year that I 360'd. So I was able to get out on the pro during pro practice. And
you're about 19 then, at the time, right? About 19.
I was 19. Yep. And I never did good. I really, even nationals, the best I ever did was 93 Gold Cup. It was in Reno outdoors. Actually made my main, and there's the picture I showed you where I'm running about 4th place, and I'm behind Anthony Freeman, Dave Archibald. I think Jerry Batters might have been in that race. I don't know, but that was about the best I ever did. But I think, man, that might have even been qualifying. Mm-hmm. I think Barry Nelson might have won that national. He was fast too, but he's a few years older than I am. But that was when it was 19 over expert. You know, when we raced, it was 17 and over expert, and then when I turned 18, it was 18 and over expert, and then when I turned 19, it was 19 and over. There was never. It was like, shit, I'm racing freaking. Might as well race A Pro. Yeah, you got a better chance to win an A Pro than you did 19 and over expert.
A couple things.
We talked about this a couple times. I've always said, because I was 17X and I always thought I should have turned pro. I was always scared to turn pro, and I was wondering, like, is 17X fat? Is racing 17X at a national faster? Are the 17Xs faster than B pros or single A pros at nationals?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that, but I think there was just a lot more riders. So you would have, you know, quarters and semis, or, you know, and I think with A Pro there might be, you know, 20. I don't even know if there would be 20 A Pros at a national. Maybe, you know, it depends on the race. Yeah.
The Marty, do you mind if we go to the trivia?
Say that one more time.
You mind if we go to the trivia? I'm running behind.
Oh yeah.
I know I wanted to talk to you about collecting and all kinds of different things, but my wife is calling me to do something.
No problem.
I'm sorry to rush through this, Danny and Marty, but Danny, Marty, you already know that Danny and I have received some really positive comments on the trivia.
Okay.
And I tried. I think I'm like 2 and 6.
Okay, I'm terrible at trivia, but I'll give it my best shot.
Okay, Danny, can we go for that, bud? Do you mind?
Yeah, man, I'm ready. We'll have to bring Marty back, because I was jotting things down that he was talking about, and I wanted to talk more to him.
Maybe I was premature in cutting it off. If you have some more things you want to talk about, please go ahead, Danny.
Oh, you're fine. Like I told you before, I get diarrhea of the mouth and it just starts flowing.
No, it's okay.
Let's just bring him on for part 2 later, and we'll do trivia. Yeah, let's just do that.
Okay.
So, because he brought up a lot of cool things, and I was jotting notes down, because I'm like, I got to circle back to what he said. And
I'm sorry, I messed the whole thing up.
Nah, it's all good. Okay, so I made this one much shorter, because Kevin said, hey, not so many questions. So I made this one really simple, guys. We got 7 BMX related questions from the 80s, and we have 7 pop trivia questions. That's it. There's no bonus questions on this one. It's just straightforward, winner take all on this one. I try to keep it. I'm glad I made it shorter, because Kevin's pressed for time. So let's knock this out. So when it's your turn, Marty, you're the guest. Guests always go first. So you can tell me, I want to do pop trivia or I want to do BMX, and I'm going to read you a question.
Okay.
You keep saying pop trivia, pop culture.
Pop culture. Sorry about that. So if you get it right, it's your point. Pretty simple. If you miss it, Kevin can steal. We'll go back and forth like that.
And Marty, if he asks you a true or false question, it's always true.
Okay. I don't have any true or false, because I remember him saying that. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just eliminate that, because it's too easy to steal it anyway. Yeah. So I'm like, no more true.
It's a joke, dude. You can do what you want.
All right. So Marty, do you want to do pop culture, or do you want to do BMX? What do you want?
BMX. Let's go BMX.
All right, let's go to BMX. Okay. Which of the following two riders were not on Factory Patterson? I'm going to list a group of riders. You
Okay.
have to tell me the two that were not Factory Patterson.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
David Bentley, John Cruz, Clint Miller, Richie Anderson, Jason Jensen. Which of the two riders do not belong on Factory Patterson?
Come on, I don't know Patterson too well other than Richie. I'm going to go with,
You want me to read them again?
What was the last one you said?
All
Jason
right, so
Davies?
we got David Bentley, John Cruz, Clint Miller, Richie Anderson, Jason Jensen.
Jason
Which two riders?
Jensen. I'm going to pick Jason Jensen as one because I
Okay.
can't. And then I don't know why I'm thinking Clint Miller.
You got it. Those are the only two riders on that list. The other riders were Factory Patterson, David Bentley, John Cruz, Richie Anderson, all Factory Patterson.
I figured I knew John and Richie, but I wasn't too sure.
I wasn't going to say Brian and Brent because that would have been too easy. So I had to think of other riders that were on Patterson.
Well, before we say goodbye to you, Marty, you're going to tell a story about the Patterson Sentry.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'll take pop trivia.
Now you're calling it pop trivia. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
Which actor, this is going back to 1985 in the movie Back to the Future, which actor was originally cast as Marty? Was it Eric Stoltz? What'd you say? Oh, you already got it. I didn't even give you multiple choice, man.
Yeah.
What a show off, dude.
Eric Stoltz. Rocky Dennis. Did you know that? He was Rocky Dennis?
Yeah, he was Rocky Dennis. Yeah, and they shot a lot of footage with this guy until they decided he's just not giving us the vibe that we want, and they wanted Michael J. Fox. So that's they shot all those scenes, man. It was a lot. He did a lot.
Some of his footage is still in the movie.
Say again?
They used some of his scenes.
Yeah,
they did. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's my pick again.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to BMX.
Back to BMX. Okay. What mainstream, so in other words, A-list actress appeared in the movie BMX Bandits?
Oh, that was Nicole Kidman.
Bing. Got it. All right. Looking good. It's 2-1.
Underhand softballs, dude.
And you know what? They get harder.
Give me a hard time, dude. Go ahead.
They get harder. Okay. Okay. What do you want?
BMX.
Okay. What specific BMX part was Richie Anderson famous for riding?
Tough wheels.
There you go. Skyway Tough Wheels. It took you a second. I was like, okay, Kevin, come on, dude. All right. So, Kevin, you got another one. It's 2-2. So far, you guys are 100%. All right. So, what do you think, Marty? What do you want to do?
Man, let's stick with BMX.
We're going to stick with BMX. What team ran the ad? This is in 1984. What team ran the ad? What's black and white and wins all over?
Diamondback.
Diamondback. Good job. Looking good. Man, you guys, it's going to be a tie game. I have a feeling. All right. What do you think, Kev?
Pop culture.
All right. We'll go back. What year did the album Purple Rain come out? Was it 86, 84, or 82?
86.
What do you think, Marty?
What? Okay.
Oh, it was 84.
84, Marty Steele. This is your chance. 1984, Purple Rain.
I remember going to
sure.
Yeah, they played that all the time at Roller King, which is across the street from Oak Creek BMX. There's a roller skating rink, and we would go there all the time. And I just remember being 13 years old, so that had to have been in 84.
That's the way you play the game, my man. That's perfect. Perfect. All right, so Marty, it's your turn. You stole it. So it's 4-2 right now. It was 3-2, but you stole one. So now you got a chance to kind of pull. So what do you want to do?
Let's go BMX.
Going back to BMX. All right. We only have 2 BMX questions because we're doing a mini version.
Okay.
Mike Miranda and Tommy Brackens became teammates for what factory team?
Torker?
Torker, yeah, you got it. That's 5. Kevin, we're down to, because I made this. Well, you want to do pop culture? Okay.
Oh, boy.
What NFL team won the most Super Bowls in the 1980s?
The 49ers.
49ers. Good man. You didn't even. I didn't know that. I found that out today.
Was it Super Bowl 16 and Super Bowl 18?
I don't know. All I know is I'm a Broncos fan, and they killed the Broncos.
They won.
Okay.
I honestly don't remember, but it was quite a few. They won in the 80s. Okay, so back to Marty. It's 3-5. Marty, what do you want to do?
3-5. BMX.
Yep. So we're on our last BMX question.
Okay.
This is it. All right, let's see. In 1984, there was a factory team with the following riders on it. I'm going to read the riders. You tell me the team. Are you ready?
Okay, I'll do my best.
All right, 1984. Bubba Hayes, Toby Henderson, Rod Beckering, Lonnie Tatum, and Brian Lopes, all on this team. What team are we talking? Oh, Kevin, what do you think?
Oh,
SE.
SE Racing.
oh, that's right. Toby was on for a short stint. Nice steal.
That was a good steal.
I thought for sure you had that one, bro.
I didn't know. I didn't even think of SC with Toby Henderson. That threw me off.
Yeah, that was the Toby Henderson one. That was tricky.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got, guys, we only have 4 questions left. It's 5-4. Marty's winning right now. Kevin, you stole that last one, so it's your turn, so you can tie the game right now. So we got to do culture. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
What 1980s film featured a group of teenagers spending detention together?
I know it.
The Breakfast Club.
Oh.
You paused. I was like, Kevin, please tell me you know that.
He's making me sit in suspense. He's like, I know he knows this one.
This is good. It's 5-5 with 3 questions.
You get a chance.
All right, 5-5, 3 questions left. Are you ready, Marty? You ready?
Yeah. So
right.
It's pop culture, obviously, but does he get to go because he won, or is it just back and forth? I forget.
He got his question right,
okay.
So it goes back to you. You didn't steal it, so it's
okay.
yours. Okay. What
Tie
famous
score, right? Tie score?
Tie score 5. Okay, so Marty, what famous guitarist played on Michael Jackson's song "Beat It"?
Edward Van Halen.
That's the one. All right, looking good. 6-5. Okay, you ready, Kev?
Yep.
"Hungry Like the Wolf" was sung by
Duran Duran.
Duran Duran. That was an easy one for you.
Do you know who the original lead singer for Duran Duran was? It was not Simon Le Bon.
I have no idea.
No idea.
Have you heard that song, Kiss Me With Your Mouth?
Yeah.
Have you heard that song?
Mm-hmm.
It's not ringing a bell.
Jim Duffy was the original lead singer for Duran Duran.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, you have 6, right? Correct?
We're tied up.
We're tied up at 6. Yeah. Okay, damn it, man. This is it. We only have 1 question left.
Okay.
Are we going to have to write this down like we did with Mark?
Yeah, we're going to have to because I only have 1 question. You guys are tied.
Well,
all right.
Yeah. So, I say it's my question. So if I miss it and Kevin can answer it, right? Is that how it works?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah. It's your.
That's right. Yeah. All right. So it's here we go. Are you ready, Marty? You can win right now.
This is for the win, dude.
This is for all the marbles, huh?
This question is one of the harder ones, guys. I'm going to let you know. Okay. What 80s band was known as the Fab Five? What 80s band was known as the Fab Five?
I have no idea.
Kevin, no? You want to take a guess, Marty, at least?
I don't know if there's 5 Huey Lewis in the News.
Oh, it's a good guess, but no. What do you think, Kev?
I'm saying Duran Duran.
You guys both got it wrong. Okay, so
Who was
okay, so I'll tell you, it was the Cars. It was the Cars.
Yeah.
it?
I
I've
wouldn't
never
have
heard that
guessed.
before, man.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
wouldn't have
either.
guessed it.
I got a cramp in my foot. Hold on. All right, so we're going to end in a tie, 6-6.
All right, I'll take
That's
that.
our official tie.
Man, that's
Our
bullshit.
first official tie.
All
Yeah,
right.
I shortened the questions because for time constraints here, but
Yeah.
that was an excellent match, man. You guys were just neck and neck. That was awesome.
Man, that was a good main event.
A virtual fist bump, Marty.
There we go.
That's our
All right,
first.
There it is. There it is.
Before now, one of the original reasons why Marty was going to come on was to tell the story about the Patterson Sentry.
Yeah.
And I totally glossed over it and forgot about it.
Yeah,
So,
me too.
So please, Marty, share with the viewers your story about the Patterson, the long lost Patterson Sentry. The floor is yours.
Okay, I'll make it. Oh, go ahead.
Marty, that was one of the questions I had. I was like, I still have other questions for him.
Yeah.
And that was one of them. So, all right, man. Sorry. Go ahead, Marty. Tell the story.
So here's the story behind the Patterson bike. I own a roofing company, and a good friend of mine has a food truck. He would do the food truck thing, and it had a bad leak. So he brings this food truck by my shop, and I put this roof coating on it. Long story short is it's a long story. It cost me about, I don't know, $500 or $600, maybe $700 to do it. And he's like, "What do I owe you?" I go probably like $1,200. I go, why don't you let me look at that Patterson you've been talking about? So it's like, okay, come on out. And I've known the guy for 25 years. So it says as long as I lived in Reading. And I go out to his house, and he's like, "Yeah, come on by." He's like, "You want to look at it? You can have it. If not, I'll pay you, whatever." And I'm like, "Okay." So I go out, and he pulls this bike out, and his name's Jason Kerr. I go, "Dude, Jason," I go, this isn't the Patterson I was thinking. This is old. It almost like the chainstay was the bar with the dropout like a Redline square back, but it was a round bar, and there wasn't a dropout. The dropout was cut into the frame. Okay. And I'd never seen one like that before. I'm looking, I go, well, it's definitely a Patterson because I could tell by the decals. So I told him, I said, I got a pretty good collection of bikes. I go, "Jason, look, I'll take the bike. I'll kind of restore it to where I think it should be," because he had some parts that weren't really right on it. So I took it back, and it had some nice blue Maxi Cross 3-piece cranks on it. They were all in pretty good shape. The little mini tough neck, but I had to change like the handlebars. He had some tough wheels on it that I took off, and I put some Z rims on it. And at any rate, you can kind of see the picture that I gave to you of me standing with Brent and Brian when I gave it to him. But he told me, he goes, when I was a kid, he lived in Vallejo, and he said there was a guy named Bobby Schultz that worked with the Pattersons, or was one of their team guys or something. And this guy Bobby had given him the bike. He goes, "This was one of Brent's demo bikes," and they moved on. And those guys always gave stuff away. Okay. So Jason rode the bike. He raced it as a kid, and then he more got into skateboarding. So the bike had been sitting, up at his dad's house here in Reading for 40 years, in his out, not too far from where I live now. So I take the bike, clean it all up, and the funny story is, at the very first Dirty Fest, I saw Brian Patterson. He was there, and I kind of approached him and said, "Hey, I have this old Patterson," and I go, I'll bring it up to Frogtown so you guys can see it." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, cool," And I think he was caught up in everything, but he was nice to me. I don't want to say he just brushed me off, but he was just like, "Yeah, sure, bring it up." And I'm like, "Okay." So I bring it that next year, and I started, the whole time I was thinking, so me and Ronnie would come by, and we're sitting in my garage, and he goes, "Dude, this is old. This is super old." He's texted Vance a few pictures of it, and didn't really get much of a response. So I said, "Well, I'll just take it down to Frogtown, and maybe I'll just give it to him. Maybe it's just something they're not interested in." But I take it down there, and I take it to their tent, and they're like looking at it going, "Dude, that's a Sentry." it was, and I don't know, maybe they didn't get the pictures that Ronnie sent them. I don't know. So I'm down at their booth at Frogtown, at their tent right there, and there's one of the guys that's part of their crew that's with them is like, well, I'll give you $500 for it, and I'm like, I'm not really looking for it, to sell it, and I just was, and I told him the whole story about Bobby Schultz and where the bike came from, and they don't have any recollection of a guy named Bob Schultz, but at any rate, after everybody's kind of, talking back and forth, Vance is sitting over across the way, and he goes, well, the magic question is, how much do you want for the bike? And I told him, I said, honestly, I just want you guys to have it. And it belongs with you guys. And if it's as special as you say it is, I'm not losing out. I'd rather just give it to you guys. And dude, they invited me to their dinner that night, and they displayed the bike at their dinner in front of, there was another bike, a Champion, and it was like, all I heard all night was, I was wearing a yellow BMX Action t-shirt, and like everywhere I'm like drinking a beer or having tacos, and I just hear that dude right there in the yellow shirt, and everybody's talking about how I was the guy that gave him the bike. So now it's super cool because I go down there and it's like, 2 years running, and it's like, I get to go to their dinner and hang out with them, and Brent's wife is super nice to me, and just, everybody's saying hi, and it was just really a cool thing. And so when I got back that from Frogtown, I called my buddy Jason and said, hey, Jason, I go, remember I promised you I would never sell your bike? And he goes, yeah. And I go, well, I didn't. I go, but I gave it to Brent and Brian. And he goes, dude, that's the coolest thing you could have ever done. And
that's
so
awesome.
now that bike is theirs to display. They'll display it, I think, each year. And it's just cool for it to be in their hands.
What did they ever confirm exactly what year it was?
I think it was, well, they said it was the number 2 Sentry. So it was the second one made.
Wow.
Vance went and wrote this really long, nice post on his Facebook page thanking me for it, and it was really cool. So I think that bike is probably as rare as a bike gets, because I don't know how many Sentries they made, and I don't know how many they have, but it was just, I don't know. It was really cool for them to get that and have that bike. That's
amazing. Wow.
And it was
very generous.
It was more, yeah. And that was it. It was like, I don't have a problem with that. It's, it's the money's not a big deal for me. I remember Brian, he was telling me, yeah, some guy wanted $10,000 for one of my old cruisers. He's like, I told him to pound sand. And I was like, yeah, I would too. It's just sometimes,
wow.
I think that, a lot of people think that these bikes are worth all this money. And it's like, man, I mean, they are to the right buyer, but I don't know. It's, I paid a pretty good chunk for that RRS, which, I think I could recoup my money. I might make $500 off it, but I'd rather keep it just because of how rare it is. Unless there was a collector that absolutely had to have it, that bike I would sell, but I paid $2,500 for that bike. Yeah.
Danny, do you have any? What other questions you got, Danny?
That's it. that was the greatest part of the story. I couldn't wait to hear that because we talked about it at Dirty Fest, and I couldn't wait to talk about that. Yeah. And he's had some great bikes. Every bike you mentioned.
You don't have to be a selfish prick in the collecting market, BMX bike, to feel good, right?
Yeah.
You can be generous. They could come back. You could benefit down the road by doing the right thing. So that's admirable, Marty.
Yeah, it's like taking something that has got super value and donating it to like the Smithsonian, because that's where it belongs. And I feel that bike Marty had definitely belonged with the Patterson. So that was a great decision. Just put it that way.
I think we lost Marty, dude.
Yeah, we did. We lost.
I think we've lost. All of us have been messed up. What happened with you? How did I lose you?
I don't know. The screen just went black. I'm like, oh no, that never happened to me before. So I jumped right back on. Sorry about that.
No problem, dude. So Marty, if you're not coming back on, I want to.
Oh,
now we lost
gone.
Marty.
Yeah.
Marty, thank you. Well, let's give him a couple seconds, see if he comes back.
Okay. Hey, he mentioned a couple bikes, the Diamondback, Silver Streak, Super Goose, Skyway, S&M. All of those are great platforms for building bikes on. You know what I mean? All of them. I was like, wow, those are all good bikes. Especially they were for the era that they were in. The Silver Streak was a great platform. Obviously, Super Goose is a great platform. Those are all great bikes that he mentioned.
Yeah.
I thought so anyway.
Yeah, dude. So it looks like we might have lost him, dude. Hold on. There's Marty again. Hold on.
Okay. That's so funny.
Sorry,
I was like, that sounds different to me.
My damn battery died. It like just.
I knew it.
I'm like, shit. I didn't realize we were on for an hour.
Yeah,
okay.
man.
Okay. Everything went to shit when you were gone, Marty.
Oh.
Oh. I went to mention the sponsor and I totally fucked up the name of the sponsor.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, you can redo it, right? Now that I'm on.
Yeah, I can redo it.
Perfect.
Okay, so what's up, guys? Marty's back, and before we say goodbye to Marty, I want to say thank you so much, Marty. It's been a pleasure. I'm sorry we rushed you. I had to rush you through, but I appreciate it. Hopefully you can come back on again. I would love to have you come back on and talk about collecting.
Yes, that'd be great.
Hobby and that type of thing.
That'd be awesome.
I'd love to see some of his bikes too, if that's possible.
Next time I'll be a little bit more prepared with and kind of that shouldn't be hard to do at all.
All right. So I appreciate it, Marty. Thank you very much. And at this point, we're going to say goodbye to you. Fist bump. Thank you. All right, man.
Thanks, Dan, Kevin. It was awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I had a great time.
Thank you very much.
Frogtown, if you're coming this year.
I'm in a Frogtown, dude.
Are you going to come to Frogtown?
Yeah, I'll be there for sure.
I'll see you at Frogtown.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Guys. Peace out, man. Thank you.
Bye.
Later.
All right.
Okay, let's try this again. I will be remiss if I didn't mention and thank Danny for coming down for Dirty Fest 3 and staying with us. The family helping me out at the booth at Dirty Fest. Thank you so much, Danny. If you would like to hear some of our stories, please don't hesitate to check out our video from last week, our Dirty Fest recap. Thank you very much, Danny. I appreciate your help, bro.
No problem. No problem.
And before we say goodbye, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the sponsor for this episode. RIP BMX Wear is ran by Joe Tippett, and he is a solid dude. He makes solid shirts. You will not be disappointed if you check out RIP BMX Wear on Facebook. I will leave you everybody a link to the Facebook group in the description. And if you'd like to check out some of my shirts, I do have some shirts left over from Dirty Fest. T-Boning is not a crime. I got some other shirts. They're $25 plus shipping. You can reach out to me with a message. You don't have to go through the site. But thank you very much. Danny has his own channel. Danny, go ahead and drop your channel information. And what do you do when you're not getting embarrassed with me?
Danny Pena BMX Racing on YouTube. I'll be doing a video tonight when we're wrapping up. I do BMX magazine reviews, my favorite thing. Race reviews. I go to events. Anything that has to do with BMX racing, I like to mash together these videos and post them up at least once a week. And then, of course, I'm here with Kevin every Monday night, and he drops his videos typically on Saturday. So we got really good rapport going and some good growth. Both channels are growing. We just got to keep up that momentum and just keep liking and subscribing.
I already know who we're gunning for now. We're not going to say who we're gunning for, but you know. And we picked up 13 subscribers since Dirty Fest. So we're doing good, bro. Thank you very much for everybody for watching. Support, email, sharing. And if you see some of my clips and my reels on Facebook, that's the object. That's the goal for you to see them. Thank you for watching. And from Danny and myself, until next week, the track is now closed. Peace out, everybody. Thank you.